panelists, faculties, alumni, and students. I, Nimisha Rustagi, along with Gunjan Tiwari and Kshitij Sablania, on behalf of the Corporate Relations Committee, I'm Kashipur. Welcome you all to second edition of 𝐕𝐼𝐥, the annual operations conclave. The theme of the conclave is Evolving Landscape of Operations and Supply Chain, an Indian lens. It has been a really challenging and transformative period for each one of us since the onset of the pandemic. But it is said that limitations live only in our minds. However, with hard work and perseverance, our opportunities become limitless. We have truly come a long way since the COVID-19 pandemic, and there has been a monumental shift in our ideologies. Operations management is the focal point and lifeline of any enterprise. It is the elixir that allows any business to grow, engage, and eventually thrive in this world. The digital world has been a catalyst in the further transformation of the way businesses operate. It is imperative that we focus on the right methodologies to take advantage of the inevitable transformation. Today, sustainability has emerged as a key driver for the long-term success of any business. We believe that there are three facets of sustainability that every organization strives for: towards one's business, towards the workforce, and most importantly, towards the world we live in. So, in order to gain insights and perspective of successful industry executives, we have four accomplished leaders from significant corporations with their expertise to enlighten us today. I take this opportunity to welcome our panelists and look forward to an informative and energetic evening with you all. Now I request Gunjan to introduce our esteemed panelists.
Sure, thank you, Nimisha. To begin with, I would like to introduce our first speaker for the day, Mr. Abhinav Sinha. Sir is currently heading the control tower and supply operations in Africa, India, and Middle East at Michelin. With more than 15 years of experience, Mr. Sinha has demonstrated leadership in supply chain and logistics domain. Sir has previously worked with Tata Motors, Kraft Heinz, ITC, Philips, and Cargill, and has also led many supply chain transformations and business partnering strategies. Mr. Sinha has done his engineering from NIT Patna and PGDIM from National Institute of Industrial Engineering. We are honored to have you, sir, today with us.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. So our second eminent panelist for today is Mr. Sethu Madhavan. Sir currently holds the position of Vice President at Biocon Biologics. In his current capacity, Sir is the Global Head of Insulin Operations for India and Malaysia. Mr. Madhavan has over 25 years of experience in both petrochemicals and pharmaceutical industry, having worked with organizations like Herdelia, Dr. Reddy's, Ranbaxy, Teva Pharmaceuticals, and Biocon. On the academic front, Sir is a postgraduate in chemical engineering and has completed his PGDM from MDI Gurgaon and postgraduate diploma in patent law from Nalsa University. We are looking forward to hearing from you, sir, and we welcome you.
A warm welcome to all of you.
Thank you, sir. I would now like to invite Kshitij to introduce the other panel members. Over to you, Kshitij.
Thank you, Gunjan. Our third panelist for the day is Mr. Mayur Chhabra. Mr. Mayur is currently serving as the Head of Logistics and Planning at JK Cement, White and Wood Paints Division. Prior to this, Mr. Chhabra has worked for Coca-Cola, Nestle, Hindustan Unilever, Britannia, and Del Monte Foods, and has an experience of 21 years in the stream of supply chain, distribution, resource and planning, demand and supply planning, and many more domains. Sir holds a postgraduate of commerce, MDP in supply chain from IIM Lucknow, and has done an advanced program in supply chain management from IIM Kolkata. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to participate in this event. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Our next panelist is Mr. Vinit Majgaonkar. Sir is the co-founding member of Armstrong and is presently serving as chairman at Armstrong Dematics. Sir has experience of 27 years in the intralogistics automation and robotics industry, serving 2 years in the German board and 20 years since then in Armstrong. He also has an experience in distinctive international partnerships and collaborations to his credit. Mr. Majgaonkar has been featured as a prominent thought leader in the leadership code by the Economic Times of India. Apart from the industry thought leadership, he also invests time for redefining education for village children as a social obligation. We are really honored to welcome you, sir.
Thanks for having me here. Pleased to be here.
Before moving on to the exciting discussion ahead, I would like to acquaint the panelists with the flow of the event. Firstly, I'll be posing the questions, and then the floor will be open for all the panelists to share their thoughts, post which will be a Q&A session with the students present here. A thought certainly comes to mind upon seeing all eminent panelists. Sharing knowledge is a charity of knowledge that constitutes the way of a beautiful life. With this quote and a hope for fruitful discussion, let us move forward with this session. Starting with the first question. The industry has moved from mechanization and automation and digitization, which are stepping stones of the fourth industrial revolution. This revolution revolves around smart manufacturing and has propelled industry professionals to change their operating processes as per the criteria. Dear panelists, we would like to open this discussion with your thoughts and insight on this restructuring and the path to the future.
So maybe I can start off to set the context. And before I start off, thanks to whole of team. Very good topic chosen, and everybody from the institute to participate as well. So while you talked about, so you mentioned majorly 2-3 keywords. So maybe just going down to basics. You mentioned about automation. So just going back to basics, automation would typically mean using IT or probably machine to take on the repetitive task probably, and freeing up human beings for some other works. Digitization, simple. If I just put about meaning of that word would be converting something data probably which is not digital into digital data. Now, in terms of if we talk about digitization and automation, so separately there can be many initiatives about digitization. There can be many initiatives about automation as well. But the magic actually comes in when both of them get synced up along with the modern technologies, host of technologies that today you would hear about. So IoT probably, in artificial intelligence also, machine learning, virtual reality, cloud computing, all of them probably. Now I'll just try to build upon the story on how this particular thing would typically happen. Let's take an example of any industry where we are working. So the first important thing to go about the journey of the whole thing industry 4.0 that we would typically talk about would start from visibility. So the visibility, unless you digitize anything, the amount of data that you are talking about is not easy to be handled. So digitize it. Then what you do is that you are putting in systems and process to capture the multiple information that you would typically like to have. Now, with what would you typically do with the data? The database could be as big that any particular human being would find it difficult to handle or even make out meaningful insight out of it. So now I talked about certain concepts like artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud computing. So all of them typically can bring out meaningful insights and can also help in taking the decisions which typically human beings might not fathom, because the amount of data that you would be getting would not be as easy. Now, unless what we are talking about is linked up from different element of the chain. So when I say element of the chain, if I just mention a simple value chain, it can start from procurement process to inbound logistics to manufacturing. And when I say manufacturing, it's a very simple word that I say, but within a manufacturing process then can be hundreds or thousands of process steps. And then when you complete your manufacturing, you have your movement to be done, if we are talking about a product-based organization for sure. Now, integrating all these informations through different technology that I talked about, different concepts like IoTs and all, and then you have your cloud computing and everything, so that you have your meaningful insights. This is typically the future where we are going towards. So if I say where we are at this point in time, we are quite well there in terms of equipped with the different concepts. Those are getting strengthened up. Where we would need to do a lot of work is about making use cases out of these concepts and technologies that have come in. So that's where I think the future lies, finding the proper use cases wherein you can maximize the benefit out of these new technologies that are coming in and the concept that we talked about. Yeah.
So hi, I would like to add on what my panelist Abhinav said. So first of all, please pardon me for my voice because I was down with viral from last 2 days. So there's a hoarseness of voice, but I just wanted to be a part of this panel. That's the reason I've been discussing here. So while we talk about that Industry 4.0 and sort of that how we have been proceeding, what are the steps the industry has been taking. But since it is a session wherein there are a lot of students, I would like to start the emphasis on that why did we have this sort of requirement of Industry 4.0? Why the earlier things were not sufficing? Why we want to have this transformation rather? Okay, I remember way back in 2002 when I was with Coca-Cola. So we were called as shipping department. Okay, why shipping? Because the only motive which we have is to ship material, and we have only one goal, that you keep shipping and forget it. Okay, from shipping it evolved, and now slowly and gradually from say go down to warehouse to your distribution centers. And I think over a period, the things how things have been evolved, the use of say a modern technology, the advent of all your e-commerce and other things. Okay, the speed to market becomes the key. How do you ensure that your products are reaching well on time? You have your complete visibility on your inventories in the system. Okay, and then what is happening at the point of sales? What is your real moment of truth? Okay, so when your material is being picked from the shop floor, you should get that alert that this is how the inventory has been depleting in the e-commerce section, because anything which is out of store is something which is a loss of sales. Okay, so basis this, the need of 4.0 and other things started, wherein people said that yes, supply chain is also an important lever of the entire value chain, and supply chain plays a key crucial role to ensure that, because it's no more a cost, you can say cost element. It's rather a enabler to facilitate your sales accordingly. Okay, so it is all started from that, and that's the reason we are looking at Industry 4.0 and other things today. And as I have worked for 21 years into FMCG and linked with e-commerce and all, but then I shifted to the cement side, which is the white cement, putty, and the paints business. We are recently launching our paints also. Let me tell you, supply chain is similar all across wherever you go. Okay, and I'm happy to share that even the traditional companies which were not having some say sort of respect for supply chains now in the yesterdays, now are looking forward for supply chain professionals to guide them that how do you deliver your material. That's the reason that we have this Industry 4.0, the requirement which is coming. Coming to the cement side, I was amazed to see when we have this plant here in cement industry. I was amazed to see that there's a plant wherein we use RFID at our plants. And what is it all about? It's a manless entry of the system, because with this COVID, which came to supply chain fraternity, is an out of syllabus question. And I was that time with FMCG sector, I was working with Del Monte at a point of time, and we had no clue what is going to happen next. Okay, how do you manage your inventories? Because whatever inventory things we have studied in our books, or maybe out of our experience, that everything failed. We were not able to get which formula to be used, which things to be used. So that's how things started. And when I was talking about this RFID manless thing, and even we don't want a lot of human intervention. So that's the reason when this RFID thing started. It's a manless system in our plants. The vehicle enters from the gate. There is a RFID tag which is put on this vehicle. Okay. The boom barrier opens. The vehicle immediately goes to the weighbridge. Once the weighment is done, it gets automatically recorded in that system. The vehicle moves ahead. It goes to the loading bay. The loader knows what SKU to be loaded in this plant. There's a screen which is visible. The truck also gets a signage. Okay, yeah, you have to go to this place. The moment the metal is loaded, the person just enters that into the system. The truck moves ahead. So this is one example of automation which I was trying to tell you, that it's manless effort. Apart from that, Abhinav will also vouch for me, because he has been handling the supply chain control towers. The use of supply chain control towers is becoming very, very prominent nowadays, because people wanted to have complete set of information on one single screen. How is my inventory behaving? How things have been moving? Okay, how the inventory is depleting? Do we have any aging in the system? Okay, what is happening to my vendor payable or vendor receivable? How the things have been moving? So I think this is the transformation which is going on. And let me tell you, with the advent of ASRS, I don't know how many of you know about that, because we are going to implement that ASRS also in our paints plant, which we are bringing up. It is a complete automated storage and retrieval system, wherein you just need to given some instructions to the system, and system do the auto picking and auto retrieval of the material, and then you can ship it to that. So I think we are poised to go in the right direction, and industry is taking a complete shift. And I think 2-3 years down the line, you will see lots and lots of changes the way we work into supply chain. Yeah.
So thanks, Abhinav and Mayur, for setting the context. I'm basically from Biocon Biologics, and we are in the business of serving patients, and specifically more on debilitating diseases like oncology, diabetes, and some of the immunotherapy. So for us, product is what we do, but at the end, we serve patients. At least. So service is the most important thing, because for us to see a patient getting better, or to augment, to see a much better experience of the healthcare system, is the key of the hour, and for which I think the digital tools are very, very important. So, for example, our products get manufactured across the globe, be it the US, Europe, even within India. So when we make the products, as some of you would have touched from a supply chain perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, the key touch points are very important. So what we were traditionally, as Mayur and others mentioned, maybe 15 years back, it was traditionally a technology oriented manufacturing. Oh, okay, that was the major one. Today, if you look at the overall ecosystem, be it service, supply chain, the enablers have become a very important one, because they are all digital. They are enablers, and they are more agile to digital technology. Now, what we have done as a manufacturing organizations, operations also, is we have transitioned to a manufacturing execution system. Typically, you have a material coming from the warehouse, and more so, the pharmaceutical industry is highly regulated. When you know it is regulated, it is being done by all the agencies, because you need to exactly know what you are charging. You need to have all those quality management systems, which will enable an auditor comes from FDA or this thing to corroborate that you've done the right way. So for this, you need to have a lot of digital system like the barcodes. You need to have, although as Chhabra said, in COVID 2019, when COVID struck us, we didn't know, because typically our audits are on-site inspections, and we didn't know how to react. And that is how we had to be agile. We had to look at remote camera systems, where we had looking at critical operation. That was a moment for us where we had to really had no choice but to push all these digital technologies ahead. And I think maybe COVID has pushed all these technologies maybe by 5 years. What all was waiting for 10 years have got moved very significantly. And we are seeing multiple advantages, be it in terms of yield. See, for example, typically manufacturing execution, you get data, you reconcile the data, the quality control says this is the way the data looks, then you analyze the data. Now, today, if you have real-time information, okay, you get from your own system, okay, this is what it is. This is a golden batch. How was batch after batch performed? Now, you know the parameters, because the way you execute a batch, because there are multiple parameters. You have, for example, people who know their science background, you will have pH, temperature, we have other parameters, and you need to monitor, and you get a consistent yield, a throughput. And you need to know how can you hit that, because we are a cost competitive industry, meaning we are the biosimilar industry. There is an innovator who runs the entire industry, and then we are the next one. We come with the same product, we come with a biosimilar product, and therefore there is, once we launch it, the price comes down, and therefore the accessibility and affordability improves. But for all this to thrive, we need digital system, because unless and until you don't get digital authentic information for an auditor to confirm that you are manufacturing to the right practices, you won't get approval in the advanced market. So all in all, what this has essentially done, the digital system, be it the barcode, be it the MES, be it digital this thing, we are able to pull data, get the golden batch, analyze it, and then come and feeds back to the system. And coupled with this, you also have process analytical tool. Typically in a manufacturing, when you do something in your kitchen, you taste it. So similarly in a manufacturing setup, you have performed a certain recipe, and you want to send a sample. Now the sample will go to QC, they will give you results. But what you have coming up is also online tools, which will tell you exactly. So you're getting a real-time information, that real-time information feed. So we are accelerated all these technologies in the last 2 to 3 years, and we have an ambitious plan to digital the overall system from end to end, from cradle to grave, so that, beginning from the inbound logistics, as my colleague mentioned, Abhinav, to the outbound logistics. We are looking at plant by plant, because the challenge here is, it is not that somebody is doing, we are doing it. We have to customize it to our needs, and that is what it will take some time. But when you know the business processes well, then you will be able to execute it easily, and then you will be able to derive benefits. So I don't think it is a choice. It has becomes a necessity, but it is an imperative to have digital tools in this age at least. And there's going to be a lot of, you can unleash a lot of potential around this, and you will have a lot of scope in the digital space, be it IoT, be it AI, machine learning. There are going to be a lot many, and then coupled with industry being competitive, we will look at AI and robotics, etc. And when you typically look at the vials and the cartridges that are being manufactured, they're all very repetitive, and we use more of robots, because typical capacities of these vials that you're seeing in the market or cartridge can be in 3 lakhs to 4 lakhs and per day, and there are also visual inspection that you need to do. So all these are being enabled by machine learning, by robotics, and it is not done by man. So all in all, I just want to keep that this will be a must for us going forward in the future. There is no choice but to make this happen. Over to you. I don't know who's the convener.
Yeah, it's so Vinit here, and good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm really pleased to be here once again. So my take on this question is that if there would be one word that I would use to describe the future, it would be omnichannel. And I'm speaking from the context of logistics, and specifically intralogistics automation, because whatever my colleagues just spoke here, I'm the guy who delivers it to them. And hence, for me, this is baptism by fire, and whatever I speak is strictly with reference to what my company has done for the past 2 decades. So this entire shift from manual to mechanization to automation and to digitalization, over the past 22 years, I have been a live witness to every single shift of this. And where are we heading to? Well, we are heading to the omnichannel world. And this word I used for the first time 7 years ago in one of my addresses in Abu Dhabi in a similar business conference. But let me tell you that we are not there yet. But we have made a significant progress since, especially in the last 7 years, if I may say so. The world was pretty polarized towards a single channel then. And then currently where we stand, we are at an intermediate stage of being multi-channel. And a lot of changes from the government have also played an important role in fueling this, if we talk about India in specific. For example, GST coming in, the unified tax regime, which has helped us consolidate our warehouses. There's a lot of, so I also advise to the government of India on certain logistics related committees, to the Ministry of Logistics. And let me share with you that currently we are working on a detailed policy on standardization. And standardization is one very important thing going ahead, to get into the omnichannel and automated world. So I love to use this word again, so the tomorrow's world is going to be phygital. So physical and digital, it's a fusion of both of these. And phygital is going to be tomorrow's world. To add to standardization, there's also multimodal transport. There is a lot of, there are a lot of improvements going on multimodal transport in India specifically. In Europe, it is pretty much achieving maturity, but in India, we are still trying to get there. We're at a very nascent or initial stage of multimodal transport. So with all this, I think the next 3 to 5 years that I see the way they could pan out, and partially COVID has also fueled this evolution towards omnichannel, is ultimately the customer at the focal point of all that we deliver. And then the customer experience becomes supreme. And once the customer experience becomes supreme, omnichannel becomes dominant. So by definition, for those who may not be well conversant with this word, I just briefly state that omnichannel is a word where your entire experience of getting your hands on any product or buying a product is a seamless fusion between the digital and the physical world. So imagine that while going to the office, you see something, some attractive kind of a costume on a mannequin. While you're going on a bike, you just stop by, take a photo. The search engines help you find out numerous locations where online and physically where you could get that particular costume. And then you define exactly the location where you want to get it delivered. And by the time, let us say it's your coffee time in the afternoon, you have a particular package delivered to you. You try it out at your office and you maybe don't like it. So on your way back, you just think that, oh, there is this particular store at the corner of the street where I live. I can just kind of give it back at the store. And you just hop into the store and return the goods in that particular store. So this journey, I just explained as a small token of omnichannel, which can seamlessly kind of integrate all these digital and physical kind of experiences for the customer. And I think Generation Z, and especially the students out here, I think you will identify what I described to what you would love to have. And this same experience can be extended to any sort of anything that you wish to buy, or any consumer or non-consumer goods that you wish to buy. So omnichannel is the world of tomorrow. It's a matter of time that we all reach there, and exact time frame one doesn't know. But my experience for the last within the last 22 years of running this company is that we often underestimate the long term and overestimate the short term. So I think that this omni-channel experience perhaps might become a great reality in the next 3 to 5 years, because multi-channel is today's reality, which was maybe a dream about 3 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Dear panelists, thank you for helping us understand the sync of digitization and emerging technologies, IoT, cloud computing, AI, and machine learning with upstream and downstream of the supply chain. We're bounded with tons and tons of data every day, and this is where Industry 4.0 comes into play. And whether it is a service-based industry or product-based industry, as we have discussed, we have come a long way from godown warehouse and to the distribution center. The importance of value chain and automation holes in the industry was briefly described by examples with relation to cement industry, and how automated systems, quality management systems is important in the pharmaceutical industry. We also discussed omnichannel is the word of tomorrow, and many people don't have much understanding of omnichannel, and getting to know how automation works is truly enlightening. I'd now like to invite Nimisha to take forward the session.
Thank you so much, Kshitij. Getting back to the discussion, I'm building a base. So Logistics 4.0 is characterized by optimization, chain traceability, security of data, and suitability, interoperability between different human and digital factors. The question I'm posing here is, supply chain form one of the core competencies of an organization. How are Indian companies building a future-ready supply chain and logistics with a focus on feasibility? So please go ahead.
Yeah, so if I put forward my view on that, so I think at this point in time, all the organizations are attempting to go digital, and not just go digital. Digital is maybe one of the steps. It's also about beyond digital, wherein you are talking about utilization of the databases as best as you can. In terms of the consumer space, if I talk about the type of demand which is coming from consumer in terms of service and cost, both of it is pretty much well demanding. And to meet that, there's no other way rather than going this journey, wherein you would be, if you're making all the processes more efficient, you would be taking correct decisions at correct time. And when I say correct decisions at correct time, it's not so simple, because any decision is impacted by a multitude of factors, which is variable at any point in time. So as I said in my initial comments, it's not so easy for anybody to take quick decisions basis the databases that any human being can look at with his naked eye. What he needs is the technological support, and what we are talking about is different technological innovations. So when you are talking about the boardroom discussion, there's always a view and a centrality about how best are we progressing in terms of the different utilization of the different technologies that are on offer, where the central point of theme always is about the consumer. How do we reach the consumer the fastest, the best, at the cheapest possible cost? And I think this is a race, and it's a race within ourselves. It's not with somebody else probably, because at this point in time, when we say we have a certain level of evolution in this whole process. If I say the way we are doing business today in traditional companies, still it would be maybe 90% the same the way we were operating 10 years back. But the trouble is that unless you win this race with yourself, there is a trouble that somebody else can take the lead, and then there's a whole market that you might lose as well. And in terms of if I be specific about production system, if somebody is getting more efficient today, efficient in terms of production, efficient in terms of time to market, it would be a big challenge to sustain yourself. So in terms of the different ways and means that organization can approach it, there's a large sense of priority about it, and there's a good sense of resource being put along this path as well. Yeah.
So I'll take it forward from here. There are two major subsets of the question. One is on the optimization and another one is on the traceability. Okay. So when you talk about optimization, as I was talking about that supply chain is no longer a cost-centric division. It has become an enabler now. Okay. It's look like that, an enabler. So I think over a period of time, even government policies has helped us to optimize our operations. Okay. So GST being one of them. So I'll give you a classic example. Before GST, we used to have 3-4 warehouses in our NCR built. Okay, so there was one warehouse which was based out of Delhi, one was in Ghaziabad, one was in Gurgaon, because the distributors don't want to take material through C forms. There was a hell lot of issues in terms of C forms and all. And while we were also forced to have, say, multiple warehouse because we wanted to ship the material, we don't want to have tussles with the customers and all. But then it was a cost which was coming to the company. Okay, and then you go to any network study, any say inventory study, you will find that having the material at a hub is always beneficial, because you can keep replenishing material from there. Okay, you have complete control over inventory, and you can also work on reducing the number of days if you have that inventory at a hub place. Okay, so we consolidated our warehouse operations. We merged it to a mega warehouse in Delhi, and from there we started supplying, and we identified not only we saved on cost, but rather our service, our fill rates, or we call it OTIFs in the modern era, which is on time in full, that jumped because we were able to supply material on time. Okay, and we have that availability, which was because of aggregated inventory. So this is something which we have done. Apart from that, in terms of network mapping, the you can say use of ports, because we used to bring imported stuff also. Now, gone are the days when people were only dependent on one port, which was JNPT, which is a very jam-packed port, and we have issues of you can say strikes going on, and then sometimes we get stuck. You have multi options in the country now, thanks to government of India, because they have been building on this in this policy. Now we have Krishnapatnam port, we have got ports like this Mundra port, which have behaved very well. So you can do this network optimization, and whatever import stuff is coming to your country, you can divide that into multi ports. Okay, this is again a part of network optimization in the entire network study, which you can do. Coming to traceability, when we talk about the traceability thing, okay, so even in our industry, cement industry, because it's not a food industry, it's not a what do you say, pharma industry. So one would say, why do I need to have that traceability? Yeah, forget about it, because it's a cement, it can be used anywhere and can go anytime. But that's not the right case, because the type of money which is involved in my inventory is huge. Okay. And we used to supply it through rail and roadways. Actually, we are using multi-modal and intermodal, both type of, you can say, new transport systems, as was mentioned in the previous session by Vinit, that multimodal and intermodal. So I was happy that somebody's talking about that. So we are using multimodal and intermodal both. Our inventory is moving on the wheels, and we need to know where it is. So we have done a tie-up with the US-based firm, which is a Rombi. You can do a Google and you will find this Rombi is available. And it was a 7 months of trial with them. And we were failing. We put these devices on the railways. Okay. So we move our material through containers. It's a 90 container rail, which moves out of my plant. We have got our own railway terminals in the plants. Entire rail carries 2,500 metric tons of material. So the importance of that material to my end point, to my warehouse, becomes huge, because my entire sales is dependent on that material. But I was completely dependent on Indian Railways, which, thanks to the legacy system, they were not updating it. Okay. So for say 10 hours, 15 hours, I have no clarity, no clue about the whereabouts of the material, because it's never updated. So we started this process, that how do you bring some sort of traceability in this? And when we started, you can say, finding for some suitable fit in the market, and we failed. There were nobody. People are there in the market who can give you track and trace for your road vehicles, because they put a small GPS device into your truck, and you can have that supply chain control, and you can track it. But how do you track Indian Railways? Okay. So that was out of the syllabus question. And then we found that there is a device which is a portable device, which is a device which can be stick to those containers. You can just connect it through a magnetic device, and then it can move it. We started that. We were told that you have to charge these devices. We charge it and we put it in, and we were told that the battery life is 15 days. We said, good enough. 15 days are good enough. But somehow this battery was running at a faster pace, which we decided, because when it was sending me the data back and pinging, we were saying that, oh, battery has drained. So sometimes the journey has been, half of the journey has been covered, and we will say the battery has been drained. So how do you do that? We moved to a 30 days battery life. Again, we were having some issues. Sometimes connectivity not done. Sometimes because we were placing this device inside the container. So sometimes we were not getting GPS signals. So a lot of things going on. Suddenly we come up with a solution, that why don't we try a solar propelled device which can get charged through solar on the way, and why do you paste it outside the container? And believe me, this has been a successful thing for us in terms of traceability. We import these products from USA. Okay, these are Rombi devices. This is a small device, I think twice the size of your mobile phone. Okay, this gets placed outside the railway container. Okay, and on the way it gets charged through solar energy. Okay. And this gives me complete visibility of my consignment, which is moving on the railway tracks, that I get to know minute by minute, hour by hour traceability of my material, that this 2,500 ton material is where. And in case there are certain issues of stoppages, okay, I got to know, and I can now call Indian Railways or Concord people that, boss, this is where my material is stuck. Sometimes they also get amazed at how do you get this information prior to us. Okay, so that's the power of the technology which somebody can use. So you were talking about traceability and optimization. I think this is how we have been using these two things. Apart from that, we have also started a QR code and RFID tagging at my cement bags. Okay, there are two things. One is, when you use this, you get a complete traceability chain. So from your plant, the material has moved to X terminal, from terminal to your depot, from depot to your end retailer and consumer and retailer. You can scan it and just see from which all points it has moved. Okay. Apart from that, we also use this to, you can say, build a trust in the market, in the end consumer, because when you scan it, it will also tell you that it's a genuine product. Okay, because nowadays there are a lot of efforts in the market. People are trying to prepare some duplicate products also. So if you have these things, you can work on traceability. You can have that trust of the customer. And optimization, as I told you, that they're a classic example which we have recently done. So I think that's how we have been moving ahead. Yeah.
So thanks, Mayur. I'd like to add on the same very philosophy in the pharmaceutical setup. We ship all the products in cold storage. We ship it across the globe, and we use these chips to monitor the temperature. And also, in addition to that, we also have the track and trace philosophy, because typically, if there is a problem with a certain consignment, it is imperative for us to recall. There are multiple recalls that happens in the pharmaceutical system. It's a class 1, class 2, or depending on what the nature of the problem is. There is something that we test, and if it goes to a patient and the patient were to detect it, then it's imperative for us to kind of use all these track and trace, 3D scanner. All these systems are being used. In addition to that, the multimodal transport, we use both air and through ship. So all these technologies, be it barcode, be it digital, be it improving the efficiencies, being it real-time tracking. I think supply chain is one of the most evolved functions that I've seen in the recent years. I mean, long ago, 15 years back, as my colleague mentioned, it was just not even there. But today's supply chain is everything. In fact, more than manufacturing, the ownership is on supply chain at least. So the end-to-end delivery, because they interface with the customers, they get all the information. So that entire piece has to be robust, rugged, and the technologies available need to be put to all the pressure tested, so that you're able to deliver the product end to end. Today you can see a product based on whatever enterprise resource planning, that if you have multiple enterprise resource planning, we are able to exactly track up where the product is. And if a patient, for example, if a patient is not having a certain product, we are able to exactly say where the product is and deliver to the patient, because these are life-saving medicines. And you get a call from the hospital, oh, this guy needs it, especially in the Indian context I'm talking. Oh, I don't have a product. Then real time we got to have a medical representatives go track the product from Bangalore to Chennai or wherever it is the patient. And especially during COVID times, this was all the more important. I know you had, in fact, we repurposed a drug, 𝐿𝐴𝐳 when a patient goes into a very severe state of COVID. And we really had, it was quite expensive. We had only 2,000 of that. And if somebody wanted it, I know you're not available in Chennai, then we had to ship it from Bangalore. Our BFI, which is the branded formulations market team, who used to reach out to us, and we used to ship the product. So the overall ecosystem, be it all digital, is what has enabled us to better connect with patients, to have a much better patient experience. And once you get that, the patient one, if you're able to save the life, there is nothing greater than a satisfaction. That is the biggest satisfaction. Of course, that gives us that altruistic motivation of saving someone's life. There is no greater satisfaction in life than that. I think these are systems that have come of late and is really helping the entire patient ecosystem. Over to you, Gaurav.
Yeah, hi, Vinit here. So I'll just give my take about the Logistics 4.0. And Logistics 4.0, that takes me to an event that happened I remember about in 2011. I get a call from a vice president of a leading retail company in India, and he says that he's fed up of wrong dispatches, and he had a problem of almost 12% wrong dispatches. So his accuracy of dispatch was only 88%. As you all know, that the retail industry has got the wide variety of products, and they have their own challenges. And then me and my co-founder, we worked out a solution towards that. The requirement was to get the order from the SAP, process it on our machines, sort the items as per the stores, and then take those sorted items to the respective docks, to the vehicles, so that those vehicles would provide those items to the required stores. We took about 6 to 8 months to figure this out. When we asked this customer about, that's our typical standard question, what is your product spectrum? And it was actually fun. He had about almost 3 lakh SKUs. The type of product was extremely difficult to handle. His description of the product was, it was a lifestyle retail stores, and it had products like a spoon and a fork and a knife and pillow covers and cutlery, crockery, and all sorts of things that you see on the retail store shelves. So this was a great challenge for us to handle such a variety of products mechanically. and then also have very close traceability of all these products digitally. But we achieved it, and the final product was that we could give them an accuracy of over 99.5% in this entire sorting operations. And you can imagine the cost of reverse logistics, the cost of wrong dispatches that they suffered. And then incidentally, in the April of 2012, when me and my co-founder were attending this Hanover trade show, the president of Siemens declared that he declared this new word, Industry 4.0. And that's when we just looked at each other and said, well, we've been there, done that. So long story short is that since 2011, we have been delivering solutions of Industry 4.0 to the logistics or intralogistics sector. And here, I would like to address the why. Why would people invest in it, first of all? To simply put, let us look at the 3 V's, first of all. One is high value. Like Mayur just said a while ago that his products are high value products. And then imagine a warehouse which is handling products like smartphones, for that matter, iPhones or whatever. Imagine the value of one tote carrying, let's say, 25 iPhones. We had a case where, a pallet of some premium scotch, the cost of that pallet was $60,000, a single pallet. Imagine this pallet being dropped in its manual handling. So if a product has a high value, if there is a company who is handling high volumes, the Unilevers and the ITCs of the world. So all of you know that their SKUs may be in one particular plant, the SKUs may not be more than 90 or 100. But the sheer volume of their SKUs are extremely difficult to handle. And the third piece is variety. So when I say variety, what comes to your mind? I just gave an example of any retail warehouse, retail industry warehouse. So that's the variety. In case of value, even pharma is another case where these are very high value products. So these 3 V's basically are the fundamental drivers of automation. And why do people automate? To get high visibility and high velocity. These are the other 2 V's which complement or which add on to this, the first 3 V's that we saw. In a country like India, automation, where, when I started this company, people said I'm crazy, because in 1999, when many of you were just born or toddlers, the per day rate of labor in India was 60 rupees, 80 rupees, 100 rupees. And in such an era, talking of automation, people really thought that we were crazy. Even today, a labor rate in India is about 750 rupees per day for the labor which works in a warehouse. And no investment of automation can be justified if you merely talk about removing the labor. In fact, automation cannot be looked at substituting labor alone. Although we have about 1,400 projects done by now in the last 20 years, and in each and every case, we have proved that the manpower does come down by about 75%. So it comes down to just 25%, 1/4 of what you would have. But apart from that, the 5 E's, it is also the cost of poor quality. That, extensive use of labor. The cost of poor quality has an implication of pit fridges, loss of traceability, visibility, loss of velocity. All these are the cascading effects of this cost of poor quality. Then there are 2 S's. S's as in S, the alphabet S. One is safety. So our completely manned warehouses have extreme challenges on the safety front. And with in the Logistics 4.0, that is practically taken care of. And the last bit is the space. So we have conclusive evidences that with the automation that we have delivered so far, we could maximize the space. So in the same square feet of a footprint of a floor area, by going vertical. So now, for example, Mayur mentioned about the ASRS, and we are building this ASRS. We are delivering about 30 stacker robots in the year 2023. And these stacker robots are almost 30 meters tall. And in India, traditionally, warehouses were never supposed to be that tall. Warehouses were typically 8 meters tall. Then about 4 or 5 years ago, they started becoming about 12 meters tall. And now we are discussing, or not discussing, but we are delivering 30 meters tall. Our target is to deliver 40, 44 meter tall warehouses. And you can imagine in places like NCR or Mumbai region, which is Bhiwandi, which is warehouse area, or in the peripheries of Bangalore, the space is very expensive. So going vertical also helps. Now in this, what we are doing as a part of Logistics 4.0 is there are some simple rules that I would recommend you as future executives from this industry. Number one, so in any piece of equipment that you buy, if there is no software, then you're practically investing in a junk. So ensure that whatever you buy, whatever piece of equipment you buy to automate, there is a software piece. This software piece basically is recording some few fundamental things to start with. One is time stamping every single movement of the material. Second is, wherever possible, capturing a picture of the material when it moves from position A to position B. So if these two fundamental things are taken care of, most of the data capturing, and of course, the third most important thing is identification of the material, which is usually done with a barcode or an RFID. With these three fundamental things, once you start capturing this information is very fruitful for entire operations that happen across a complete warehouse. Now, having said that, talking a little bit more about the lights of warehouse, as we call it, and that's where we are heading to in India now. I mean, globally, it's already done. In India, we're heading towards that. So warehouse can be, or intralogistics can be grouped in terms of Industry 4.0 into some 4 or 5 building blocks or segments. Number one could be inbound automation. 2 could be outbound automation. These are your interfaces with the outside world. And these are the most underestimated kind of or underplanned areas, because people, wo kya, wahan kuch ek 50 log lagane se kaam ho jayega. But these are the choke points. And if they're addressed properly with automation, then the rest of the warehouse remains healthy. It's like, it's like you eat the food. So it's the same. And then you process it. So inside the warehouse, once your inbound and outbound is duly automated, then comes your storage automation. That's the third piece, storage automation. The fourth piece is there are some value-added processes which are done in a warehouse. In case of automotive, it could be some small sub-assemblies. In case of e-commerce, it could be multi-packaging. So in one parcel, you put 3 or 4. So that is order consolidation, and so on and so forth. So this processing is the third piece, wherein it is important to get multiple materials from various storages and getting it to one operator who can pick and place those material in the consignment, in the outbound consignment. And the fifth piece is sortation. So whenever you dispatch the goods, sortation is one of the most important automation that is required. And so if you achieve all these things, then most of your warehouse is automated. There is a sixth piece which is now becoming aggressively important, which is robotics. And for the last 5 years, we have been deploying a lot of robotics into warehouses. So for example, when we automate end of the line packaging, so when, for example, Unilever manufactures soaps on its production line, and these soaps automatically are filled in the boxes. These boxes are automatically taped, labeled, and then, so we after doing all these operations, we move them to a robotic palletizer. On a robotic palletizer, they are palletized. Each pallet is then moved via either conveyors or with an autonomous mobile robot. It depends on the kind of complexity that the situation demands. It is moved to an ASRS. So this example, so we are doing such live projects right now as we speak here. So these are some examples of robotic cases. I mean, they're wide examples. A lot is being done on robotics, and the next 5 years, I believe that robotics will ramp up like anything. At each instance, you may note that the software system that our software system maintains a detailed record of every single package about its location, its identification, and where it is supposed to move, or what was its dwell time, when was it moved last. In industries like pharma and food, the shelf life also becomes very important, and that is one more facet that automation adds, in helping these industries to move the goods in a FIFO fashion. So this is the kind of holistic approach that one must have towards logistics 4.0, and when it comes to especially intra-logistics 4.0 is what I'll say. We have in various pieces, we have already implemented a lot of these things, lot of these automations in India, and globally this has gone to already to the level to which I have described. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the examples you and the other panelists quoted help us get real insights from the industry. It is important to understand how technology is actually helping companies pace themselves and get ahead of their competitors. A very important topic discussed was network optimization through multi-ports. Traceability is a very tricky thing as discussed, and equally important in all the industry, whether FMCG, cement, or pharmaceutical. The industry instances discussed relating to tracking of product in Indian railways was, I'm sure, a brand new information for many of us. And actually, industries have to conduct a number of trials and errors before implementing such systems. And we agree that technology has made it much more easier for all of us to implement such systems. Supply chain has also evolved in order to avoid any recalls, and how tracking plays an important role in pharmaceutical industries, because this is somewhere we cannot afford stockouts and products fails, as mentioned by Sir. Sir also mentioned how an optimal supply chain helps in handling a huge product spectrum. There are companies ahead of future implementing multi-facet automation. All in all, everything comes down to optimization using technology and automation, and hence the investment in Logistics 4.0. Coming to the next question, operational processes and logistics are experiencing exponential advancement, as we all discussed, in terms of digital excellence, but they're leading to not just e-waste, but waste impacting environment by increasing carbon and water footprints. Sir, the question is, we would like to know your opinion on what are the methods that companies are finding relevant in the current times to optimize their operational processes and supply chain management, progressing towards a sustainable era. Over to you, sir.
So I think I would like to answer this question before anybody else answer, because sustainability is a very important aspect as of now. And I think everybody is talking about that nowadays, because people want to have that social responsibility also fulfilled. Okay. And when it comes to this industry, like we talk about cement and all, the people look around that how things have been working, how the industry has been giving back to the society. Okay. So we have done 2-3 things here in terms of sustainable movement of our material. As I said that we have been using 3 ways of transportation out of 4. So there are 4 ways of transportation everybody knows, which is rail, road, sea, and by air. Okay. So we are using both multi-modal and intermodal transportation services for sending our goods to different parts of the country. We've got 3 plants which produces products for us. One is based out of Fujairah, which is in Dubai. Other plant is in Katni, which is in Madhya Pradesh, and the state-of-the-art plant is Gotan, which is Rajasthan. Okay, so when we start, what we have done over a period of last 2 years, that we have been increasing our rail movement of the material rather than shifting to the road. Because if you talk about the most you can say greener transportation ways, so the most greener would be the sea ways or the waterways. Okay, then it comes the railways, and the third one will come your roadways. Okay, out of the 3 which we use. But then when we said that we have a coefficient of almost 50%, we have 50% by road, 50% by rail. So what we have been doing is that we have been working with not only with Concor and Indian Railways, rather with other private players, which is DP World, Adani, and other people of the world. And we have tried to say shift more and more towards rail. Okay. over a period of time, last 2 years, we've got 17 to 18 new terminals added in our entire value chain network mapping, which we have. So if you have to send the material to a railway terminal, you have to get a GST registered. You have to ship the material. You need to do that. You have to have a small warehouse there, and you have to get that GST registration as extra done so that you can do a seamless invoicing from this place. Okay, so we have added 17 of such terminals in our kitty over last 2 years time. So now when we speak, we have moved from 50% to almost 68% of rail network usage in our entire transportation system, which we do. Apart from that, we are also a strong proponent of using the inland waterways. Okay, so while it has been talked about the Sagarmala project and all, but I think that's still in a very nascent stage. Government has to do a lot of things. But what we do, whatever metal has to ship to my down south region, okay, from my plant in Gutan, this metal gets loaded in containers, goes to my railway siding. From there, it is loaded on the railways. The railway ship this material to up till Mundra port. Okay, it gets offloaded at the Mundra port, and from there it is loaded into the inland water vessels. Okay, so from Mundra it goes down south to the down south geography through ships, through waterways. From there it is offloaded again, and then it is moved to my warehouses. Okay, so we use a intermodal sort of a network wherein while the containers remain the same, but we are using it through various ways of working. Apart from that, we are also using multi-model wherein the metal is loaded into trucks from my plant, goes to some certain railway platforms wherein it gets loaded into the wagons. From there, it moves to, say, end destination, which is for Northeast, if I'm to talk about. So we're using these type of things for getting into a sustainable way of working. And we are also using certain other technologies at our plant so that we can reduce, we have our own power generation system at the plant. Apart from that, one very important thing which we have been doing is on the AFR. AFR is the alternative fuel for your plants. So India has been struggling with heaps and heaps of garbage, which we see, and it was also a political agenda this time when we have this Delhi elections, MCD elections, that who will clear the heap of garbage which we have in Delhi. So JK Cement has done a tie-up with the MCD, the local bodies, to clear 60,000 metric ton of garbage which will be generated in the city, because we will take this away to our plants. We'll clear it off in our kilns. We will burn it, because that's the most you can say cleanest way of clearing this, because everything gets burnt off. Okay, the cement plant has to use some fuel for burning. So rather than using those fuels, we just clear this garbage, and through this we have been working on our clean system. So I think these are the certain ways and means wherein we are working towards some sort of a sustainability, and how do we give back to the society as well. Yeah.
If I go next, maybe I think what's very important is about having a planet view in everything you do. So while we were talking about the different modes, multimodal for sure, it gives a lot of advantage in terms of sustainability. Network redesign, it's all about reaching the customers by moving materials less at times also. If we are talking about the product itself, how do you design your product? So if I'm talking about the tire industry, so we have a new product in which we have proved that we are using 8% lesser fuel for the trucks which are fitted with those tires. We also have a range of tires which are typically used by vehicles and battery operated vehicles like Tesla, wherein the vehicles runs more on every charge. Typically, while you are also designing your plant, it's also something that is a compliance thing also. So I was in a plant wherein I would say a lot of new greenfield project wherein water was something which was key ingredient in the whole processing, corn milling. So building up a zero liquid discharge plant wherein a lot of expenses does go, but still it's something that's important that you have to be looking at. So in overall, what I would say that while you are doing different things, it can be as simple as your packing materials also. So today, if I see a Bisleri bottle, today it's far thinner than what it used to be before. And the change that I see, that there's a pressure inside, probably due to a liquid nitrogen while they are packing. And then it's a green initiative. So it's right since the product development phase to manufacturing to movement. Everything, everywhere, a planet view will help us do it better. So that would be my take.
Thanks, Abhinav. I'll go next. I think most of my panelists have covered everything. We do weave everything of what the previous panelists spoke. But I just like to add on two more. Especially the pharmaceutical industries use solvents, and then these solvents generate a lot of effluent. And in fact, if you don't recover and recycle, it adds a lot of effluent cost. I mean, that's a big challenge. And you find if you don't have an approach or a philosophy to recycle, reuse, and ensure that the recycled solvent meets the specification of the fresh, you won't be able to use because you're in a pharmaceutical setup. It could have extraneous matter. You need to characterize it. So we have built up recovery systems, recycle systems, so that we are able to reuse it multiple times. The second point is we use a lot of batch manufacturing records, which generates a lot of paper because we do store this paper as a record for the auditors. Now we have gone digital in that. We go for EBMRs so that it's all electronic. So this is also going to reduce the carbon footprint. Third one, if you see many people who are diabetic, they use disposable pen and reusable pen. Typically, you have a cartridge, and then when you have a pen like the ball pen that you have, you put the refill back, and then the outer body remains the same. Now, in the advanced markets, people don't prefer the recyclable concept. At least in the emerging markets, we find that there is the recyclable pen. So what you essentially do is you have the outer body which can be recycled. You make a blister packing of the cartridges, and whenever the patient wants, he can just remove the previous cartridge and put this cartridge. So that is really caught up in the emerging market, and we did this. But in the developed market, also we're trying to take the journey because the regulatory approval is far more stringent. The rigor that goes into a medical device, you can imagine. I mean, it is far more rigorous than anything else. If it was a commodity, the lens is different, and for a pharmaceutical, the lens is different. So we are trying to embark on the journey of how to kind of go for recycle because that's where the value is. But these 3-4 initiatives is something that will come on top of my mind other than what my other panelists said.
Right. So on sustainability, I think that we are still scraping the tip, and it's good that Generation Z is very conscious about this fact. And I'm sure that even when you choose which companies to join, you will be asking this question about the carbon footprint of that company, if you may choose to do so. While there are leaders like Trump who kind of trivialize the environmental impact out of ignorance. But I must say that if COVID brought down the world to its knees, then environmental impact has the capacity of 10 times than COVID to bring it down completely on its knees. Having said that, there are severe concerns that we have been facing in our customer segments. And for example, if I may state, the e-commerce industry, Amazon, Flipkarts, and the Mintras, and all these giants are our customers. And we were often wondering about the kind of waste that they're creating in the packaging materials. So on one hand, while making the customer experience extremely important, and Amazon even claims to be customer obsessed, not claims, but they actually are customer obsessed. In endeavor to do that, there used to be a lot of waste that contributes to or goes against the sustainability. But most of you must have observed in the last few months that the e-commerce companies have moved to recycled paper-based packaging. We are currently working with a lot of these companies to even help them ship the goods without the stuffed packaging. So they normally have typically a 5-feet drop test in which they have to stuff in a lot of cushions inside the packages, and we are working out some methods by which they don't need to do it, so they can actually ship the parcels in the original packaging up to your doorstep. Second initiative that you must have already heard is that companies like Amazon, Flipkart are already going towards EVs for their delivery vehicles and for the vehicles that they use for their transportations. about a year ago, Amazon had a target of reducing the carbon, going green to up to 80% for their source of power supply, and by 2030. But this year they revised that target to 2025. So these are the good things that we are seeing in the retail segments. And then eventually this always has a cascading effect on all the suppliers of these large companies. So there are endeavors where the Unilevers and Amazons are practically asking all their suppliers for explaining their going green plan, their carbon footprint, their measures to improve the sustainability. And all the tier 1 suppliers are also kind of then obviously falling in line with that initiative. So I think a lot is happening. Whether it is sufficient or enough, one doesn't know yet. But I think that, yes, we must constantly keep working on it because there is an option. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is actually a relief to understand that how much industries are focusing on environment while stepping ahead into the future, and that they're actually keeping a track of their carbon footprints. We actually got to understand how green transportation is playing a very important role in sustainability. Thank you, sir, for discussing about multimodals and how they are playing a very important role in sustainability. And it's nice to listen that you're cleaning garbage heaps instead of just burning them. So we discussed about how very small changes could actually have a huge impact, like the Bisleri bottle that you discussed. These small green initiatives could actually make a great impact on the environment. And it all comes down to the basics of recycle, reduce, and reuse. Examples like recyclable pens were pretty interesting. Waste can be generated in many forms, such as various packagings. And now we are also moving towards sustainable packagings, like you all mentioned. Going green has also an impact on the entire value chain, and companies are willing to afford that. These companies are actually contributing in achieving sustainable development goals for our country. And it's actually a thing for applause. Handing over to Gunjan. Gunjan, please take the session ahead.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Nimisha. So when we look through an industrial lens, operations is usually considered as the focal point of an organization, and all the processes are linked with it. So today we have many budding operation enthusiasts with us, and I'm very sure everyone is keen to get insights into how the top management strategizes their operation management decisions and how do they factor in the working of other departments for the growth of the business. So kindly shed some light on this.
So I'll go first. I think the first thing is you need to, from a strategic perspective, you need to have, the first thing is cost capacity creation and cost competitiveness. I think you need to know which product to service, where you want to be, which markets you want to be. The first thing, and for servicing them, you need to have capacity building and cost. If you're not competitive, then you need to decide whether you want to be in that market. So from a strategic perspective, you need to have innovation, technology, to ensure that you're competitive and sustainable. And point number 2 is, if you really want to move the needle in this space from a strategic perspective, compliance is very important. And whatever digital tools you want to embark on, automation, these are very important because compliance is the norm. If you're not able to comply to the regulators that you are supposed to answer, then then the entire cost of manufacture is just not about production. It is about the overall ecosystem, quality, regulatory, manufacturing, supply chain. You got to be compliant with all the things. If you're not compliant, then you are not more competitive in the business. So, and the third point is you need to have the digital ecosystem now fully built to ensure that you are able to track, trace, and address customer complaints. So these are the 3-4 things that comes on top of my head. But I think the most key from an operation perspective is capacity creation ahead of time, and also a network strategy. Now, of late, you will have, you during the COVID times, you had in certain geographies, you didn't have a product there. So you need to have a network strategy of how you can de-risk your business. If you're operating in a certain geography, And because of whatever, it could be China, it could be India, it could be other, you need to have a backup strategy. So you need to have a contract manufacturing side or a CMO strategy, so which will enable you to de-risk the overall supply chain. So this, from a strategic perspective, and this will all need a lot of tools, a lot of digital platforms, and coupled with this, you will also need a lot of information, real-time information. So I think from a strategic perspective, these 3-4 come to my mind. And also, of course, last but not the least, the sustainable technologies. If you're not having environmentally eco-friendly technologies, you're going to fall by the wayside, because even the way your finances are being done, it is also being looked at from your ESG side at least. So all in all, I think these are the 5 things that comes to my mind, Gunjan. Thanks, sir.
If I go next, probably what I would say that operations management decisions are and never should be taken in silos. And you correctly mentioned while you were putting forward your question that it's core linked and related with different other functions. What it has to do, that it has to be very, very closely aligned to the organization strategy. And maybe if I just talk about to clarify, say for example, there are certain decisions to be taken, whether we have to be more service oriented, more cost oriented. At certain point in time, a business can be in acquisition mode, and you might say that, okay, let us forego cost, but service is primary so that we gain more and more of customers. You also have to look at typically at times, so what's the USP of the organization. So if when Amazon came, we all knew that, okay, so within one day, whatever we order, anything we're going to get. So that became a USP. Quick service and a visibility for service became USP probably. If we are talking about certain fresh meat company today, they are putting up their operation center quite close to the market. It can be not as efficient, probably it could be a more efficient decision to centralize all those operations, but then your USP of the organization is that you provide fresh meat. So your operations and industrial footprint, everything will have to co-link with that. If you are a brand led company, you might spend a little bit extra to protect it at times, and be extra cautious on that. If technology and innovation is key, you might have a industrial structure that protects all your information you know about. Say for example, like Apple, we never know until the date is launched what were they actually working on. You would never get a hint of or clue what the product would carry extra, and whatever you will get is more of a maybe business teaser from their side itself. So these are all interlinkages, I would say, is very, very important to be looked at here.
So I take it forward from here on. So in terms of strategy, if I have to talk about, there are two types of strategies rather. One is on a short-term horizon, that what is your short-term goal, what you want to achieve in a short-term horizon, and what is your strategy for the same. So if an organization say that in a short period of time, I want to say get some more market share into say e-commerce or some sort of like that. So this will be a project which will be a 6 months or a say 8 months sort of a project wherein you strive for this thing and you get to know that. There are certain long horizon projects also, which are a futuristic way of projects, and wherein you need to find that strategy, fine tune and align that strategy with the different departments also all together. And this starts, maybe say, this may take some good amount of time. And I will give you a live example from my company. When I joined this organization in January 2021, and I have no clue about how the cement industry works, because coming from FMCG blue chip organizations, I had no clue. But then we did lots of initiatives, and which were industry first initiatives into the cement industry. So we started, for the first time, we started delivering direct to retail counters. Okay. And that was my core competency when I was working with FMCG. And why we did that? Because there was a long-term horizon strategy in the mind of the company that yes, today we are a white cement and a wall putty company, but we have to launch paints in 2-3 years time down the line. So this is how the long-term horizon strategy works on that. And we started taking lots and lots of initiatives. One was on the track and trace, which were digital initiatives. We also started working on, say, as I said, this was the industry first experience when we started delivering direct to retail counters. We sort of align our distribution centers with the new ways of working, that how these things have to be done. Then we realized that if we have a current set of distribution centers, probably will not be able to meet the timelines which the current ecosystem, what the way paint companies are servicing to the consumer as of now. So I will be out of the system from day one. So how do I do that? So we started building our distribution network, future ready distribution, wherein we are closer to customer. So over a period of 1.5 years, I have added 50 new warehouses in my kitty. Somebody would debate with me on that. Oh, that's a fixed cost which you have added. But then how do I react to the paint companies when I'm going into the market? Because being a new entrant, being the fourth, fifth entrant, while I'll have that brand name also available with me, which is a JK Cement brand name, and I'm the number one, number two player, because we keep on shifting places between number one and number two between JK and Birla. But then how do you ensure that things are moving fine for you? Okay, so in that sense, we have been working on this strategy. So, and then we aligned all the other departments also. There was a complete alignment with the sales department, that how do you align your sales that with the new ways of working, going from say direct to retail counters rather than going the distributors way. And then you have to align your finance also accordingly, that this is how the new things will work. And happy to share, as we speak, we are going live with paints business in April 2023. So there's a hell lot of work which is going in under the umbrella and the kitty. And even yesterday, till yesterday, we were having meetings, because that how do you launch the product, and how do you go live in the market, and how do you ensure that you are sort of outbidding the competition which is there in the market, and you are able to deliver well on time. So I think in terms of strategy, you have both type of strategy, which is long-term and short-term. And this is one example of long-term strategy, which I just shared with you, and how I've been working on it.
Right. And one small piece of advice, whether solicited or unsolicited, for you young budding managers and future executives, I would say is that a good strategy with great execution is better than a great strategy but poor execution. Always remember that. And while my colleagues here come with decades of experience, and they are already their job is to basically structure and come up with strategies. But when you start your careers, I would suggest that please focus on how can you contribute to translate the strategies into execution, rather than trying to getting into formulation of strategies, because that does need some bit of experience and exposure, which comes with a decade of working or decades of working. The second aspect that I want to leave with you is always remember that culture eats strategy for breakfast. So while strategy has to be a winning strategy, but at the same time, you cannot have a great strategy implemented in an organization with a culture which is not conducive to implement that strategy. So whenever you get into your future jobs, ensure that you get into a company where the culture matches with what you would want to be in. That's about it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, sir. So it is interesting to learn that capacity creation ahead of time is an important strategic decision. And as rightly mentioned, backups are important, and here they are in the form of CMOs. A company's core competencies would depend on short-term and long-term horizon strategies, and these strategies make us future ready. As very rightly mentioned, that for such decisions and strategies to work, all the departments within the organization should be aligned. We are dear panel members, we are really honored to hear your words of wisdom. Truly speaking, the right fundamentals are the game changer. I'm sure your insights must have helped these students to get a better understanding about how the operations world is going through a lot of changes in skills and knowledge that we need to focus as to become the future leaders. I'm sure our students have a lot of questions to ask to our panel members. Now let us open the floor for students to come up with their questions. I request Kshitij to please take forward the Q&A round.
Thank you, Gunjan. For the Q&A session, students can raise their hands and post their question based on the discussion conducted. Go ahead, Sunita.
Yes, first of all, thank you for the insightful session. And here, I want to ask a question to Abhinav Sinha. Sir, can you please provide us with your viewpoint on what all are the advantages of working in an operations and supply chain domain compared to other management domains?
Yeah, so I'll maybe give my experience in terms of how I have felt, what are the type of exposures that I have had. When I say operations, and when you say operations as well, operations would count for many opportunities which are available. So you can be somebody who is there working in a factory, contributing to the production. You can be somebody who's planning the production at probably a factory, or you can be planning it centrally, looking at everything that is being required all across the chain. You can also be a procurement professional who is very closely working with and is a key contributor to all these processes. You can be a logistics manager within warehouse of a plant, or downstream at a distribution center. You can be a demand planner as well. So these are certain roles, typical roles in supply chain and operations domain, as I would say. So what you tend to gain in over here is a complete overview of what's happening around the world, especially with the product or services that you are typically working with. When I say first-hand information, because when you start, and it's a very important realization also, that at times you might think the role can be very fancy, it can look very, very attractive from outside, but when you start, typically at times you'll have to get your hands dirty, get in there in action, I would say. And that's where the most of the learning would happen. You might be standing in front of a truck looking at how it gets loaded, and then the type of information and knowledge that you would grasp for your future would be for sure a different thing. And if you get opportunities to go at a railway siding and see a multimodal loading as well, it would be even more fun and learning as well. Again, we talked a lot about that. Where it gains, as I was talking about 4-5 different opportunities, the best thing that happens in those typical roles would be that you would be interacting with different other functions like finance, you would be working with marketing, you would be working with sales guys. And it's not just the service that you are giving, you are also going to gain a lot of knowledge about how the business goes around. And that's the best benefit that you can take along. And I've seen many people moving out of supply chain into business roles, and while they do so, this knowledge comes a lot handy with them, and they use it across the journey. Yeah.
I would also like to add one thing which Abhinav has said, and with all due respect to the other functions, while you can have sometimes you feel like a monotonous role in other functions, but as Abhinav has rightly mentioned, you've got plethora of openings. So it's a vast world. You can explore many vistas of this different verticals of supply chain. And last but not the least, let me tell you, when I was with Nestle, even if you're working in sales and if you have to get promoted, so 1.5 year to 2 years role was mandatory to be done into supply planning, or say maybe in demand planning, if you have to get promoted to the next level into sales. So that's how the importance of operations and supply chain is all about.
A couple of more points in addition to all the departments that we mentioned. There's also something which is like program management. That's a very important one. A program typically in a manufacturing setup is for all development products, when end to cradle to grave, to start development and you have to see it. So program management is also a very nice, good function. But what we are seeing of late, when we see new business school entrants, they don't want to get into the shop floor. They want to be on the computer. And I think that is the key. You will have to be flexible and your attitude has to be positive. If you believe that, being on a shop floor is kind of denigrating you, then I don't think you will miss a lot of nuggets of information. And that's where you might make your quantities in Excel, but you will not be able to make it in the plant. That's the reality. The strategy will be good on Excel, but the execution will falter because there is a knowledge gap. So we believe that, you come with an open attitude, be in the shop floor, 1 or 2 years will give you a lot of information. Not only that, it will also help you in people management. And operations is a centerpiece where you communicate. You are the central node. So you will communicate with quality, regulate, and you have to deliver at least. So the people management skills will also improve when you're in operations, and it will really take you into a business role in the near term. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Ankita, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you everyone for the insightful talks. So my question is to Mr. Sethu. So coming from a biotechnology background, I'm aware of the various challenges that one faces while dealing with biotechnology products and pharmaceutical products. So what are the different measures that can be taken, especially during, for instance, how Biocon is now coming up with the clinical trial of itolizumab. So what are the various measures that can be taken to minimize loss during transit, especially when it comes to dealing with live cells, etc., which are very sensitive and delicate to handle, very prone to contamination and such things.
So I think the important thing is, you have a contamination control strategy, which is very important in a manufacturing setup. You have a robust environmental monitoring trending that is done every batch, which gives you an insight on where the batch is trending towards. So this is the first fundamental thing. And if you were to get anything on, if any excursions in the environment, you try to isolate, identify why, and have a root cause which is fixing it permanently. This is the first imperative, because even if there is a batch which is getting contaminated because of ingress, then you drain the batch, you ensure that you don't further process it, because it could get converted to other metabolites which you don't know, and it could have immunogenicity risk on the patient. So that's point number one on your contamination. If you want to look at an alzumab example that we mentioned, alzumab was repurposed. We did an emergency use authorization, and we were able to manufacture in a short possible time. And it required a coordinated effort, including the DCGI approval, regulatory. Everyone had to work together, because you were dealing with life-threatening diseases, and I think everyone came together. Third thing is on this supply chain. We need to monitor. We had real-time information from the hospitals, from where we got information, and we were exactly able to have a right first-time approach to this, and we delivered. In fact, it was done in a record 3 months time, because I recollect that even vividly. When we had this problem, we were able to make the batch and ensure that the product reached the hospital in the shortest possible time. So once you are in a crisis, you need to have, and the fourth piece you touched upon, clinical trials. Clinical trials, see, it's all about data that you have. When you are in a COVID-19 like situation today, what you are saying is, what is the balance of risk? Now somebody is going to die. You have a product that is already there. So you see what the clinical trials, how the readout is. Basis the data, you have to take a very balanced risk, or a prudent risk, which will enable you to take the product. So you will not have all the data points to say, okay, tick box this, but you will have to take a Dutch point, a decision, which is ensuring that the patient life is safe. That is the approach we took at least in the alzumab journey. I hope it answered all your questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm just getting down to the airport. I'm just going, and that is why my video is off. But I hope it answered your question.
Sir. Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Amrita, please go ahead.
So I just wanted to ask a question, and which would be that what do you think is the main roadblock in the process of formalizing the supply chain system?
If I maybe extrapolate your question, will it be roadblocks to newer technologies or something? Is that where you are going?
Yeah, I mean, adapting the newer technologies towards like all the process we are going through.
Yeah, so I think the biggest possible roadblock that I see is that what is the cost versus benefit coming out of it. So at this point in time, you would see many technologies coming in, which looks pretty interesting as well. And where they fail at this point in time is during the proof of concept, where you are trying to solve a business problem. There's something that you are addressing. There are certain things, certain aspects which might not be addressed, and you might be looking at a cost benefit analysis which is not working in your favor. Though I would say we have to take a holistic view around it rather than a short-term view, because if you have to grow in this journey, at times you will have to take certain calls wherein you might not get exact cost benefit right from the start. But it's a journey where you would learn a lot and you would be ready for the next step. But again, coming back to your question, where within organizations a lot of resistance is coming back to the benefit analysis, and at times it's not working in your favor. Yeah.
So I'll also echo Abhinav's word, what he
So
said, because these are word of wisdom. Because if you see nowadays, the proof of concept is the main thing where most of the things fail. Okay, and as I was giving you my live example about this Rombi device, we waited for 7 months, 6-7 months until we tested some success. Okay, have we been impatient? Have we been not trying it? Okay, or say the partner with which we engaged was not able to give me the right product. So then probably this would have failed. And as rightly mentioned by Abhinav, again the cost. What is the cost and what is the payback it is giving to me? Whether I'm getting some sort of joy by investing into the technology, because one size fits all does not work here. Okay, because every organization is different in their needs. Somebody needs, say, X sort of a requirements, the other requirement, the other company would need a Y requirement. So how do you get into that? Because nowadays, even in track and trace, I have been working on that. You've got products in the market which are available, dozens and dozens of products are available, but that's not the guarantee is not there that will fit to the requirement or that will suits to the requirement. So there's a lots and lots of you can say change management which is involved into this, and that's where I think people have to be very patiently work very patiently on that, and see that how do you get the best product for you. At the same time, how do you convince your boardroom that yes, this is a cost, this is a future investment, and probably will have that payback in the years to come. So that's how things have been.
And thanks, Mayur and Abhinav, for putting forth this problem. And because I am on the convincing side of this problem, being into automation, you can imagine. So the very value proposition that we actually as Armstrong give to our customers is uniquely crafting solutions for our customers. So we do not, like Mayur said, there's no one size fits all kind of a theory there. One has to really study in depth about what's the application area, what's the need of the customer, where exactly, what are the pain points. So I shared some stories with you earlier. So you cannot apply a retail sector's problem or a solution to, let's say, Abhinav, which is tire industry. You can't just pick it up from there and apply it there. So you need to have, and that's our unique capability to do it. And that's the reason why Armstrong is India's biggest electrolysis automation supplier, and our partners Dematics are the world's biggest. But that's the secret sauce. And I think another thing that you particularly see in India is in the justification of the cost of poor quality and safety has also to be accounted, which typically has no, it is never attributed in any CFO's P&L, the cost of poor quality. Then there is another thing which is called as the opportunity cost. So for example, when we automated a warehouse for Big Bazaar, their inventory turnaround came down by 2 days. Now imagine inventory turnaround coming down by 2 days. I mean, already it was 1 week, and shrinking it down to down by another 2 days. Imagine the kind of liquidity that gave them in their mainstream business. Another example for Big Bazaar, if I can state, is that they were operating 36 docks for their dispatches, and with automation we brought it down to just 4 docks. Every vehicle started turning around. Instead of 3 hours on a dock, 3 to 4 hours on a dock, the vehicle started turning around within 20 to 40 minutes. Imagine the cascading benefits that this gave. Like, your fleet got released so quickly. The trucks were available for, so the fleet size reduced because the trucks were, these were all the intangible benefits. So in India particularly, you have to assimilate all these benefits, the cost of poor quality, the opportunity cost, put them together. It is always difficult and debatable, and your CFOs will always push you back on that because it is never accounted. It just evaporates. But if you're able to put that together, then your value proposition for the investment in automation gets justified. In Europe and US, it's very easy. If you replace one person, you can easily justify $100,000, $1 lakh worth of an investment. It's as straight as that. But in India, you cannot work it out that way. But yes, I mean, do focus on the cost of poor quality and the opportunity cost apart from the other parameters. And our experience is that we typically are able to prove a payback period of less than 3 years to whichever customers we have catered to so far. Thank you. Yeah, next question.
Thank you so much, sir. Sarath, please go ahead.
Thank you, panelists, for your wonderful insights. So my question is to Mayur Chhabra, sir. Could you kindly tell about some decarbonization steps which is currently in the cement industry?
As I said, that we have been working on, say, three-prong approach. One is that how do you generate some sort of electricity at our plant? Okay. So we have got big plants when we talk about the Dubai plant, the Katni plant, and the Gotan plant. It's huge plants, so in which are spread into acres of the land. So whatever free space we have, and even at the rooftops of the plant, we have put solar panels there. Okay. So we generate lots and lots of energy, electricity from there, and we use it at our plants. Okay. Second is, as we said, that in terms of getting greener transportation, we are moving towards, say, rail and what you say, the seaways. Third is on the ARS, which is AFR, which is an alternative fuel. So these are three-pronged approach which we have used. That how do we get into less sort of carbon generation or getting greener in terms of our entire operations? Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Himani, please go ahead.
So firstly, I just want to thanks to all the panelists. So my question is that, as we know that quality control and compliance is the main element of the operation and supply chain management. And nowadays, companies are mostly focusing towards the sustainability development, green product and automation and all. So I just want to know that how all these things are affecting the quality check element of the operations and supply chain, and what is the reaction of the customer towards that, whether it's able to increase its satisfaction level or not.
See, I think the new technology. Okay, please.
Go ahead, Miss. So I think the cost of compliance will have to be baked in. So the customer delight is something that is inferred for us when we try to comply to all these regulations. And if the cost is kept the same, because then it's all the more beneficial to the customer. So what we typically do in a pharmaceutical setup is we ensure that
Sethu, sir. Sir, am I audible to you, Sethu, sir?
I think he got disconnected, it looks like.
Sir, due to paucity of time, I think we'll not be able to take any more questions. However, we'll ensure that if students have any more questions, we'll forward them to you over the mail. Thank you. Over to you, Nimisha.
So there was this one question that has been bugging me since quite a lot of time. Since the beginning of the session, there was this one topic that you discussed about omni-channel. So we were working on a case study, and omni-channel is a very confusing thing, and I could not really get a handle on it. So I would really want to know how omni-channel actually works in a retail sector or in an FMCG sector, and how do companies go about implementing them?
Right, so Nimisha, I'll address it because I brought up the word. So let me take the responsibility. So first of all, you need to understand, the contours of omni-channel. And I gave you a story in the morning, not in the morning, but earlier, about an omni-channel experience, about how you could be picking up one particular costume and then returning it if required. Now, while that entire story was easy to narrate and perhaps easy to understand, there is a huge amount of complexity that goes behind. So number one needs to have, not platforms, but infrastructure level of softwares which can cater to multiple brands. So for instance, and that also helps in, so you could call it a kind of aggregator. And these ought to be, as I said, they have to be the infrastructure level kind of platforms, not just one-off platforms catering to one-off brands. These infrastructure level platforms must have the ability to plug in practically any type of hardware when it comes to either barcode, RFID readers. Then there is a plethora of information that warehouse control system, a vehicle or a railway tracking system, a plethora of information of that all these devices are generating, and the platform must have the ability to kind of take in all this information and then make sense out of it. So there are some examples which have started coming up in this, and then so this is one part of the software piece. On the hard part or the hardware piece, while GST has helped us consolidate the warehouses into large spaces, but at the same time, how do you get close to your customer, and how do you cater to customer, let's say in South Mumbai or in central Mumbai, within 15 to 20 minutes or 30 minutes in terms of, let's say, grocery or vegetables. So then there are technologies like micro fulfillment centers, which typically are small footprint, but tall kind of structures. So let's say it can be housed on a 10,000 square feet small space. At the ground, you can have your regular retail stores, and then 30 meters above that, you could have a completely automated micro fulfillment system. So that can be the hardware part of all these systems. Now, then I come to the aggregators, and aggregators in terms of the supply chain aggregators. So we are currently working with a very innovative upcoming startup, which is right now catering to some 4 or 5 pharmaceutical companies to work as their software and hardware aggregator for the entire country. So this startup will be, it's of course also funded by those 4 or 5 pharmaceutical companies. And what they are doing is essentially that they are setting up a common warehouse for all those 5 pharma companies with all the compliance and statutory and traceability requirements that Sethu spoke of. And we are all aware about the gravity in the pharma industry specifically. And they would completely take charge of the order fulfillment direct to retail. So they are doing a couple of things in this. One is they are definitely eliminating the stockists. And by eliminating every stockist, practically they are adding anything between 1 to 3% to their, which directly percolates to their bottom line. And that's huge. If you're talking about any pharma companies, leading pharma companies, 1% percolation directly to the bottom line is a huge in absolute terms. The second thing that they're achieving in this is route optimization. So now one vehicle is carrying a multi-brand kind of medicines and multiple medicines, and it is already sequenced while it goes inside the truck, and so that whatever route is given, it can just drop off it directly to the retail. So this is another example I give you, but this is not the only one. These are some small examples of how the ecosystem, both physical and digital, has to transform into a completely new kind of ecosystem. And we are seeing these green shoots, and I'm very optimistic. Hence, I said that in the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to see the revolution in omnichannel. Once these things are in place, the customer experience that I narrated to you at the beginning of this session, I think that becomes a reality. And that's where we as users will also become oblivious to the channel through which we are availing a particular service or a product.
Thank you so much, sir, for shedding light on the topic. Over to you, Sethu.
Welcome.
Thanks, Nimisha. So now I would like to formally end the session with a vote of thanks. We, the Corporate Relations Committee of IIM Kashipur, would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to our panelists for taking out time and gracing us with their presence in this event and making it a resounding success. We are grateful for your contribution to the event, and we will certainly take many insights from it. As a humble token of appreciation, we are proud to present you the certificate acknowledging the planting of a tree through our partner, Grow Trees. I request Rahul to kindly share the PPT, please. So thank you, Rahul. So as we speak, these certificates are being shared with your emails, and we hope the tree signifies the values that our industry leaders have towards the growth of our country. As it is famously said, a good event never ends in the world. They take only a pause and keep us awaiting for the next. With this thought, we thank you all once again, and we hope to continue our association in the future as well. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. It was a pleasure talking to all of you.
Thanks, pleasure talking. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks to all of you. And I'm really impressed with the way you have curated this subject. It was very mature for students like you. So I'm sure many of you are from the field and you have some experience. But I'm really impressed with the way you have curated this session. Thanks for having us here. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Over to co-hosts.